Good God, last week was one of the worst offensive performances I'd ever seen out of the Steelers. There's playing like shit, and then there's being so disgusting that the sludge on the street would try to distance itself. The less said about that awful game, the better. Couldn't this series just be like the namesake it's ripping off? They at least had the decency to shut down. Back in the air again? Fucking hell, let's just get this over with. The NFL probably thought this thanks to last week's shenanigans against the Brownies. Not content with just getting their asses beaten into the ground, Myles Garrett decided to bludgeon them with it. Quite literally. When a man takes a person's helmet off his head and proceeds to hit him with it, there isn't an excuse that justifies it whatsoever. Marquise Pouncey decided to kick Garrett on the ground as retaliation. Quick disclaimer, yes, Mason Rudolph was acting like a little bitch during the whole affair. Still no reason to hit him just a month after a severe concussion. Garrett had a reason for his heinous actions. Rudolph is a racist. Yeah, no. The problem here is if it happened, Myles would have been blunt about it after the game. Sorry, little hints and foreshadowing won't cut it. There's also no evidence supporting his claim. No mics, no ability to lip read, just seems like a lost cause. At least Pouncey's suspension was dropped to 2 games. We can only wish Rudolph was suspended, but he was fined $50,000 for being, well, a bitch. I hope you enjoy the flow of cash going to the NFL pension fund since the fines for the game totaled over $700,000. Should be a fun rematch coming up, especially at Heinz Field. Cleveland celebrated their Super Bowl win by trying to hit a Mason Rudolph piñata with a Steelers helmet. The piñata probably would have had a better game than Mason did last week. It won't help that some key players are out for the next game. James Conner and Juju Smith-Schuster all battling nagging injuries. At least we get a reprieve. The Bungles. We knew they would be shit this year, but to the point of being the greatest tank without even trying? That is some impressive bungling. This game would be one of the truest tests yet. Mason Rudolph will be their siren, luring their ships into the treacherous waters of winning. He is fucking horrible. He's skittish in the pocket, he has less confidence than Sam Darnold had at his worst, he's missing his receivers with regularity. Every throw he makes is to pray he doesn't throw an interception. Too late it happened in the goddamn red zone. You want my theory? He hasn't been the same since the concussion against Baltimore. He's afraid to take a hit, and for good reason. Not many people would be, but he's expected to carry the team to relevance. They are fucked. Thankfully, it is with great fortune that the Bungles choose not to bungle their wonderful tank. Ryan Finley is just as much of a Madden-generated player as we all mocked him to be. He was just as awful as Mason was. Constantly missing throws and failing to move the ball as if it were an Atlas stone. The game was terrible. The stadium was full of Yinzers fearing for their lives. Boswell kicked a field goal. I would say the Bungles wouldn't do anything, but they had a quick strike for a touchdown before the end of the half. DEFCON 0 had begun. They cannot lose to the Bungles, especially for their playoff dreams to stay alive. A decision was made. Mason Rudolph was benched. Many Yinzers cheered for the returning fan favorite, Duck Hodges. The offense did a thing. I repeat, the offense somehow did a thing. I am shitting myself at this phenomenon. True, Devlin Hodges was a lot better than Mason was, but that isn't saying much. In reality, he was at least poised in the pocket. He ran around too much for my liking, but he did something-ish, maybe? Doesn't help that the Bungles tied the game again at 10, but Cincinnati has shown one thing that they've lacked for years. Discipline. They are set on the tank. Even Tyler Boyd knows that the true goal is for that wonderful #1 pick. Thus, we are saved from a horrible fate. Everybody wins. The Black and Gold Brigade keeps up in the playoff race. The Bungles maintain their inadvertently constructed tank. May we bless them in their quest for 0-16. Or not as they bench Madden regen number 724 for Andy Dalton again. That sounds like the Bungles, alright. Now watch them win something like 3 or 4 out of 5 and fuck up their tank. Cincy, please don't get distracted in your quest. This will be your greatest accomplishment since the 1980s if you lose out. You won't though because you're the Bungles. At least the Steelers are doing the right thing in starting Duck Hodges for the game against Cleveland. As Mike Tomlin said, at least he didn't kill the goddamn team. We're probably getting our asses kicked, aren't we? But at least we can have pride or some shit like that, right? Despite their stumbling, somehow, I have no idea why, but the Steelers hold the 6th seed in the playoffs. They technically control their own destiny, despite the offensive impotence. Unlike in the past, the false hope is gone. That may even go for Juju. Recording yourself going over 100 miles per hour? They're corrupting him, aren't they? God damn it, he's already ineffective on the field. You can't turn him into the next hell they unleash. Please?